It's great to be here. I guess we better kick off. We had some topics identified. Do you want to pick up some of those, Gareth, or?
Well, should we just have a couple of quick intros for those that haven't been on a webinar with us and Ray before? So Ray, do you want to just give a quick intro as to why you're the guru and worth listening to?
So I'm one of the directors at My Salon Manager, and I also run my own hair salon as well. So I'm not necessarily a consultant that doesn't understand what's happening in the salons right now. It's an ever-changing landscape, and I guess in terms of buying into what I say or believing what I'm into, I'm with you. I'm a salon owner. I'm a consultant. I currently liaise with about 110 salon groups in the UK. All right.
Very good. Yes.
I hate bigging myself up, by the way. That's not me. So I guess my success and the believability of what I'm saying is based on what my members say about their progress. So, and they're not here, sadly, that I know of.
Well, some of them may come and join us.
Yeah, maybe.
It is so difficult, isn't it, to talk about ourselves? It's just not what we're very good at as a kind of. And it would be, in so many ways, it'd be easier if we could just be perhaps more American and, wear our success on our sleeves.
I quite like talking about myself.
Well, Claire, here's your opportunity. Introduce yourself, please.
Well, my name's Claire, and I've known both Ray and Gareth for many, many years. Me and Raymond have worked together on projects. I'm traditionally a salon PR, and I've worked as the in-house PR for Good Salon Guide for many years. Latterly, with Good Salon Guide, I've been privileged to go in a new direction, and we're now pretty flat out running mental health training first aid courses for salon owners. And that's been fantastic, and we've had lots of great feedback, and it's really, really interesting in terms of what we'll be talking about, how even before the pandemic, salon owners did struggle with a lot of issues, but obviously the lockdowns have just brought those to the fore. So I'm sure some of the advice we're going to give today will help them manage the return to work in a way that will safeguard their mental well-being. So that's me.
Brilliant. Thank you, Claire. I think I know everybody I can see on the attendees list, but just in case, my name's Gareth Penn. I'm the owner and managing director of Good Salon Guide. And so we cover lots of these topics, helping salon owners on a daily basis. It's a fantastic honor to be able to feel like you're making a difference to somebody's business. And I hope that we continue to do so through this webinar and then after the pandemic. A quick reminder, David Hyde, morning David, has just popped up and said, of course, we can all open tomorrow. It being the 1st of April, we can say that. It's if only it weren't, and we could do that. Shall we, as we're talking there briefly about reopening, shall we start off with the big topic that we're receiving calls on at the moment, which is patch testing, skin testing before the 12th of April in England, before the 5th of April in Scotland, because this is really a huge, I don't think we've received as many calls on a topic in about 12 months since we were discussing furlough right about exactly 12 months ago now.
Yeah.
So if I just kind of perhaps pass on the advice we've been giving, and then Ray and Claire, you want to just hop in. There's been a lot on the internet about changes in regulations around skin and scalp testing for reopening on the 12th of April in England. This comes from the NHBF's insurer changing their requirements for underwriting for insurance. The regulations, or lack of regulations in fact, around skin and scalp testing have not changed at all. And the vast majority of insurers will simply say you must follow your manufacturer's guidelines for whatever colour brand that you are using. And if you do that, the wording they use is, we will consider a claim, because of course they would never categorically say they will pay a claim out. So what do we then do about the people for the first 2 days of after we reopen? Because of course we're not allowed, either by insurance or by law, to do any skin and scalp testings in advance of our opening date, let's say 12th of April in England, 5th of April in Scotland. And that is a really difficult question to answer, because I would strongly advise against doing any colour treatments without having done a scalp test in advance. Because we've got clients in Wales who are trading now, and one lady has had 7 people react who've never reacted before. And there's a growing body of evidence that if you've had COVID, and you may not, of course, know you've had COVID because you could be asymptomatic, if you've had COVID, you could react. So please, please, please don't think I've just got to take the money on that Monday, Tuesday. Think of bigger picture for your business long term, and the health of your clients. Ray, do you want to hop in there? Got anything to add?
I think you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, I was actually a Coversure salon. I mentioned that I own my own salon. And before all of this become as big as it was, I was one of the earliest to receive the renewal policy. And it came with an additional letter with the NHBF's sort of advice to Cavia, or Coversure's insurer. And I sat there and basically the word hit me, uncommercial. It was so restrictive. I'm required to record the client. Do they have a back and neck injury? Have they confirmed that? Can I get a signature to that to avoid beauty parlor syndrome? Which of course is really important. But at the same time, can I get a signature? And it almost led me to believe that this insurance policy is basically making my my salon look like a law firm. Like you're going to come in and get bombarded. You know, there's a difference between commercial and regulation, as you say. And I think we're here to make clients feel great, not bombard them with paperwork. So unfortunately for me, Coversure was no longer a viable policy for me. And look, I've got my own opinions on the NHBF's involvement with Coversure in that regard, but it's just not working for my business. And I'm sure that's echoed through the industry. I think that this colour start thing has also chimed in at the right time. There's a lack of, the manufacturers really need to rise to the commercial challenge we face on skin testing. And it is a reason why salons have ignored skin testing. You know, most of my competitors in my area, I know they wasn't doing skin testing. Some of the big chains were not doing skin testing. They'd say, as long as you've been to a salon that stocks our colour, we take your word for it. So, and that was a big chain that did that. We was quite surprised. And sadly, they have actually closed their doors after 2 years of trade. I won't say the name, but it just goes to show how standards are so important in your salon and how poor standards can lead to a poor eventuality. But in terms of skin testing, I think you just have to make sure you do it. You get a signature that it's been done. You've asked the right questions. And you do what's right for your business, and you follow the manufacturer's guidelines and you study them in great detail. Request their copy of the guidelines from them, keep it on record, and make sure you study it really hard. I had a client yesterday, a member of our salons. She's a Weller salon, and she said, "Oh, I have to keep this client in the salon for 45 minutes whilst the patch test works." I said, "No, you don't. You, as per the guidance, it's wash it off after 45 minutes. They can leave the salon as long as they wash it off after 45 minutes. A reaction can take 48 hours to show. And at my salon, we'll only do your color within 2 to 5 days of having that skin test, because we need to visually see the result, not take someone's word for it."
Yeah.
Because they might not even know.
It's quite alarming what you say about Wales, Gareth. And I also read that the thing about it is that people might, I think that's the point to stress, you might have had COVID with no symptoms, and you could be, and also in one piece I read, there could be, you could develop some sort of reaction to products that you haven't had before as a result of the actual, the jab you have, the vaccination. So that's in the mix as well. So
sorry, just hop in there, Claire.
Yeah.
There's no evidence about receiving the COVID vaccine and becoming a reactor.
Right.
If we look at the way bit boring this, but if we look at the way the COVID vaccine works, it isn't like when we all at school had our BCG in our arm,
Yeah.
that lovely scar we've got, which
Yeah.
gave us a little bit of that
Yeah.
bug. The COVID vaccine doesn't work that way. It gives us proteins.
Right.
So
To combat.
I don't think it should
Well,
cause
that's
a
good
reaction, but
because
I'm not a virologist.
No,
you
but
know,
that
and,
has been there has been some speculation about that, so it's good to clarify that.
So I agree, Ray, entirely. I think that the NHBF have, really done themselves no favours at all here with this change in terms of conditions for their recommended policy. I will express an interest here that we have a insurer which is called SMEI, part of Marsh, that we work with. I think the difference with lots of other companies is we don't take a commission for any policies that are taken through SMEI. We would rather that full discount gets passed on to our members. Our business model is not trying to take commissions from referrals. I'm not comfortable with that. I think you become rather conflicted in what you're referring if you do that. And I've popped up in the chat just the link to SMEI, who we work with, and they've confirmed that just follow manufacturers' guidelines. And just in case people aren't seeing the chat, David has said, could we not go and meet someone outside and do a patch test? And the answer is no. Not if you want to remain insured.
Can I ask you a question, Gareth? What about sending the clients patch tests in the post?
Yeah, or dropping it off to their front door, which is what a lot of salons are doing.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's a very grey area.
Right.
I believe you would not be insured if you did that.
Okay.
Because you're not currently allowed to provide any service. So you wouldn't be covered if you delivered a pot of colour and toner to somebody's front door for them to apply. You're not insured to do that. So therefore, I don't believe you would be insured to drop off a little pot of colour to patch test with.
Okay.
Would you agree with that, Ray? Is that your...
Yeah, I don't think, as a salon owner, I don't particularly want to be driving around to people's houses. There are other implications. You're using your car for commercial purposes. And if you haven't got insurance for your car for commercial purposes, then you're not covered on that. So it's, you've got a whole boatload of colour in the back of your car. You're going to struggle to argue that one. I just wouldn't do it. I think just to realign people's thoughts, because I think there's been so much talk about this. We're all familiar with it. We need the right insurance policy for our business and for our manufacturer, and we need to know what we're obligated to do. So I think the focus should be more on what can I do in that first 2 days that's going to have the most meaningful impact on my salon business. And I think that given some of the things that you've been doing with mental health, and something that we discussed in the last meeting, is to really spend some time understanding how to stimulate good engagement from your team. And it's going to be that first 2 days back. Now, if you're an anxious salon owner yourself, believe me, the staff are feeling the same thing. There's a lot of anxiety about going back. We've formed new habits. We're going to be breaking those habits, and that jars with our brains, unfortunately. So I think make the first 2 days meaningful. If you feel that that's getting everyone back to business and doing haircuts just for the first 2 days and maybe having a skin test clinic throughout, random parts of the day, maybe in the morning, afternoon and evening for client convenience, great. If not, focus on reintegration, a kickoff meeting with the team, get them excited about this next financial year. What is our salon goal? How are we going to get there? And map that out for them. Show them a great service, consultation training. It's all going to be about the service, especially if you're going to inspire fantastic retention and rebooking to defeat what is going to be a lull in trade once you've accommodated all of your clientele. So, as you say, salons in Wales are the first back. And I'm having reports of a real significant drop off after 5 to 6 weeks of return to trade. So we need to deliver a fantastic service that inspires clients to rebook and retain to the salon and visit more often, because clients who rebook come back more often. So we minimize that quiet time.
Yeah.
So think about making the most of those 2 days and how that works for your business. I myself am probably I'm going to be doing a team reintegration day focused on consultation and training. And on the second day, they will do each other's hair. And during that days, we will do skin tests.
So just to be clear, Ray, is that on the 12th and 13th, you're giving over those 2 days not to have clients, but you're focusing on your team?
Yeah,
Right.
they need it. I think that there's a
Yeah.
huge amount of anxiety at the moment from both me and my team, and we
Yeah.
need to train hard to ensure that we make the next 6 weeks the most meaningful to the business. It's going to set us up for success. I'm in no rush to accommodate clients as quickly as I can, and I will not be giving my team additional hours because we've seen the impact on that on morale. There's been a lot of
Yeah.
movement in the industry,
Yeah.
a lot of people that have lost loyalty to their employer. They've handed their notice in 6 weeks ago when they heard about the 12th. You know, it's a real time to look after your team and care for them. Ultimately, that's the sign of a great leader. It might not be a commercial practice for everybody in this meeting, and or whoever watches this after. I appreciate that. You need to get bums on seats and you need to make money, but there's a long game here.
I was going to say
I think that you've nailed that, Ray. I think that you know, a little bit of short term pain by a couple of days more where you're not earning anything, actually long term you'll get more out of your team, you'll retain them, and actually you'll then delight your customers. And I for me, the big thing, I think the big challenge we've got is people are used to not coming into Salon now. We've had it 3 times, and we have to really delight them with customer service as well as technical skill, but we have to delight them in order for them to get in the habit of coming back to us.
I think also, as Ray said, while your staff will be anxious, remember the clients will be anxious as well. I mean, you know, we've got to delight them. We've got to make sure they have the ultimate customer experience, but we've got to be reassuring because people are going to be apprehensive. So, I mean, that's attention and stressing that you're complying with all the guidelines over COVID safety. But just, I think, bear in mind that people, as you say, Ray, not just anxious about possibly the pandemic, but people won't have been going out in those kind of ways for a long, long time. And your mindset changes. I mean, people are even jokingly, you know, talking about, we haven't put on proper clothes, a lot of us, for a long time, you know, because why would you if you're just in the house? So it's a huge, great change for your clients. And, you know, it's important that, you know, you can offer them some sort of sense of security, I guess, in all senses.
Definitely. I think, and you know, if you're worried about the cost of that strategy, you providing your giving your team training, you keep your team furloughed for those 2 extra days, you minimize your wage percentage, and then you're going to be busy for the next 6-7 weeks with the focus being on rebooking. Get your team delivering great consultations, doing the rebooking in the chair, not at the desk. You know, I hate the words, "Are you all right for appointments?" Don't know what that means, but I hate it.
What do you say instead?
I advise the client. I think it's about a journey. I mean, you're going to be, the most simple thing is that, you know, you do the final tussles of the hair and you walk the client through what you've done. You say, now I'm going to need to see you again in 6 to 8 weeks time. There's another strategy with this. We've got a lot of clients with crazy routes, different colors. I think we need some plans. You know, we're not going to be able to get instant Instagram results on day or visit 1 for the clients. We could do 3-step hair plans where we tell the client, I'm going to need to see you every 8 weeks to get you to your desired result. And that way you're also ticking the boxes for preserving the condition of the client's hair. You're rebooking appointments, so you're creating future revenue. And I think ultimately it's about, you know, it's the long game strategy, but rebooking is going to be absolutely essential for your success in 2021 and recovering your losses. As I said, clients that rebook visit more often.
I think that's a really good idea of what you said there. And I think that's one thing people can take away. It's all very well saying that phrase makes me laugh. Say, are you okay for an appointment? I hate it. It's awful, and it's always delivered in that kind of bouncy way with a side thing. But you've actually given a solid alternative because people don't know what to say. But if you put it in the hands that it's you're suggesting that they come in because it's going to be beneficial to their hair and their look, so it's in their interests, and then it's a kind of no-brainer. Why wouldn't you want to keep your hair looking nice? So I think that's a really key thing, because I know stylists struggle with that. That's one of the reasons the rebooking has always been tricky. And have you got any other tips for that, Ray? When you say don't wait and hang around at the reception to do it when they're in the chair, when you're talking about the stage. And
I think, Claire, like this, you know, you're in the chair with me, and your color, you want to transform to one of these pearlescent Instagram wonders, and I'm looking at it and thinking, wow, this is not achievable in 1 visit. So I'm going to create a roadmap for you. I'm going to say, right, I can't achieve that in 1 visit, but what I can do, I think I can get that in 2 or 3. So today, here's what I can do. write it down, keep a record of it. Then on stage 2 of that, I'm going to say, come back in 8 weeks. We review the condition of your hair. We do some strand tests, make sure that you can take the next impact of bleach. And then 8 weeks after that, we'll do it again. And then we'll get you to that desired result. But I'm going to need you to 8, 8 and 8.
Great to hear that, because I've seen on Instagram a lot and nobody's explained it as clearly as that, you know, the client journey. And we've been told very much, be authentic, be real, be honest with the clients. Don't lead them to false expectations. But you've actually clearly set out what that means. And I don't think I haven't understood that. So
I would like to be clear, because I like to give other people credit. This is something that I've learned from other salon owners, and specifically here, I think Sophia Hilton, you know, she's an advocate of this in her, what is it called? The containing client expectations, unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, managing expectations.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it's, you know, not only do you cement revenue in the diary of your book, which is obviously as the salon owner, what I'm
brilliant.
But you're containing the client's expectation. Instagram and Pinterest is, unfortunately, as good as it is as marketing, it is actually our worst enemy.
It's unreal. Yeah, it's unreal. I think that you've made lots of really good points there. It's beneficial for you. And the thing is, Ray, though, you have admitted to say you will get clients who will get, to put it bluntly, arsy about that, you know, say, well, you know, I've read a lot about that. If you're honest with them about that long stage journey, but to be honest, it's probably better to lose them than give them unrealistic expectations, or do what they're asking, which is too much technical stuff at once. And then you've got a backlash that the hair starts breaking off. So it's better to say goodbye to clients that won't follow that, your advice. Yeah.
But you're the professional. It's for you to advise them, isn't it? It's not for them to say, do this. Yeah. You know, that's a route to all sorts of trouble.
Yeah. I think something that I say to my team is I think something that my team has learned over, especially since the last lockdown, we actually had an increase in complaints as a percentage on color. It was still it was low, but it was more than I like it to be. And I think ultimately we come to the decision that if a client isn't looking or giving the signs of wanting a relationship with you as a hairdresser, and they're there for color, I would consider if you are the right hairdresser for them. And if you're not, you need to be able to say no. Your stylists need to be able to say no. I'll give you an example. You get that alarm bells start ringing when a client sits there and says, I've been to this salon, I've been to that salon, I've been everywhere. No one gets it right. And you're going to get it right. And you think, well, hang on a minute. You've mentioned some of my competitors. I know they're good. I think you're just impossible to please. You know, it's not them. It can be you. Now, that's not to say you won't make a difference, but I just hear things. And I think the minute you start feeling this person is here for one visit or they have another motive, consider saying no and educate your team to say no in the nicest possible way. You know, I'm not quite sure if I'm the right hairdresser for you. And that can also be in the salon as well. You know, if you as a stylist know you're not going to achieve the best result, but Claire over there can, I'm going to recommend you to Claire because she's really good at balayage. You know, it's all about identifying.
No, that's a good point. I think I remember talking with Simon about this years ago. I think for many years there was an awkwardness about that in salons, but people felt very uncomfortable about changing. But you should encourage that, because now, years ago, it was perhaps more awkward because people didn't specialize so much. So you might be implying that you weren't a good hairdresser. Now you can do recommendations because so many of your team have probably got an excellence in a specific area. Yes. So you're not saying I'm not up to the job. You're saying this person is outstanding in this and has probably got some, you know, color degrees to show for it. So lead them in the direction of the person that's the right and expert in that salon. And I think we need to move on from the fact that there has been a lot of awkwardness about that in the past.
Definitely. I think it's about, but you need to have a team meeting about that, celebrate your strengths. I think historically there's been so much focus on people's weaknesses. Oh, you're not great at cutting, so let's get you on a course. But actually, this person's fantastic at balayage. So more of that, more and more and more and more, you know, because it stimulates them. They're obviously very good at it, and they'll get the clientele they deserve from the result that they achieve. So, I'm a big believer in focus.
I'm a big believer in having those specialisms within salons, which, you know, a lot of London salons were doing years and years ago, and now more provincial salons are recognizing there's a lot of value in that.
Do more of what you love.
And also your staff will feel empowered. If they're not being made to feel like they should deliver a service which they don't feel confident.
Yeah.
If the word no has piqued an interest for you, like your team don't have the rules and don't know how to say no to a client or pass them to someone else. I actually did a YouTube video on this a couple of weeks ago. So feel free to type into YouTube My Salon Manager, and I'm sure you'll find how to say no to clients. It can't be discriminatory. You can't do it because you just don't like them or because of their gender or anything like that. But you have to, I think in 2021, you have to be able to say no.
Yeah. Really good point. And I think it tallies in with what you're saying. People are so desperate to get bums on seats now.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about managing your time going back, but the ability to say no to someone who's just not going to be right for your business. And I think, Raymond, let's not underestimate, I know you've got a lot of views on social media. If those warning bells are signing, listen, because if somebody comes in the old days, they'd just come in and trash you verbally into the salon. We've all seen that. But now they'll take to social media and they will have, we know that keyboard warriors, they'll have no qualms about being so, you know, evil, quite frankly, about you and your team. It can cause, I've seen it, I know you've probably seen it with your people, the damage that those bad reviews, and then we all know how to manage that. You try and take it offline, but some people won't let it lie. You know, they feel very empowered when they're behind a keyboard, and that can be bad for your salon.
Similar to the skin testing cars, I jump in the car with a few weapons and I go and exterminate the bad review client. I'm joking.
You know, we better say, because this is on record, Raymond isn't telling
Ray
the
is
truth.
joking.
No, it's fine. Everything's recorded on my client records. Whatever I've done, it's all there in writing. No, I'm joking. I think there's something that I say that, you know, a negative review can have a real emotional impact on us as salon owners and stylists. And it's never nice when it happens, the initial bump. Investigate it. It might actually tell you a story about the service that's being provided. I think there's something to learn in everything. Just like a woman that came into my salon after lockdown, and she went in with one of my top colorists who records everything, 3-step plans, skin test sheet, the lot. And she didn't like her hair. The stylist colorist did it again, gesture of goodwill, no charge. We want you to be happy. She came in again, still wasn't happy. So the manager stepped in. And during the conversation with the manager, the stylist is stood slightly behind. And the client goes to show the manager a completely different photo to what she showed the colorist in the beginning.
Right.
Now, knowing this colorist, we know that she was factually true. And she was telling the truth. The colorist was like, that is not the image that the client showed me. And it goes to show just how far clients will go to get a refund, a free do, or have an opportunity to moan. And she did this huge complaint online about the stylist and the business. She took my business from 4.8 stars to like 4.6 on Google. I'm going to be honest, it does not concern me because it shows that we're a real business and it taught me something. I need to enhance my record keeping at the salon because clients lie. So unfortunately,
What do you mean? Should the stylist have kept a visual of the first?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So I think now our policy, once we go back, is we have a digital consultation form. We take a photo of the imagery that they've shown, and then we take a photo of their actual hair, and we write down what it is they want. Now, it seems a little bit over the top, but
but not after what you said.
Not after what we said. It taught me that, you know, I need to protect my team here, and I need to be able to be in a position to also review a poor review, some bad feedback accurately without, you know, any misinterpretation or making assumptions. So I'm doing that because I want my team to be comfortable. Now, again, it's not right for everyone, and this might chime against it, but it's what's right for my salon on the outskirts of London, which tends to be, you know, representative of what clients are expecting and what's happening now. You know, it kind of expands.
But invariably, clients will pull up an image on their phone and say, this is what I want. I think that's a good idea. I also think that, you know, it's great listening to you, Ray, because it sounds to me, it sounds to me that you really are invested in your team. I think that's something that when you talked about coming back and team motivation, it's quite simple, really, what you've said there. You put them first. It's not always like, well, the client's always right. You know, to me, you have a strong belief in the validity and the honesty and the ethics of your team, and your actions 150% support that. And it's very important that, just going back, to have ways to show that you really are supportive of your team. And I mean, as you say, that might not be for everyone, that example, but you're really looking out for them and safeguarding their well-being. And that's what I think it's to do with. Though those team know that they're in safe hands with you, that you're a good boss.
Yeah, I think as I said, a good leader cares for the team. They're in your care. You have a duty of care as an obligation. But I think if you can take that one step further and respond to good feedback and negative feedback in your salon, it shows you're listening. You're listening to them, and you're listening to the people that are coming into your business, and then you're enhancing that experience for everyone. I think when I joined the industry, it was all about the client. This is 18 years ago. Client, 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 and it's about the team. A happy worker is a busy worker. So
there's a good commercial imperative there, because actually a happy worker is going to be a more productive worker, and it's going to work faster, and therefore in the hours that you give, it's a kind of virtuous circle, isn't it? And but I, to reinforce what we started with about the mental health of our teams and ourselves having returned, I really, really support your first couple of days, just to get the team feeling, looking confident, just generally caring for them before what is going to be a crazy month.
Yeah, I guarantee if you go back and the first thing you do is a haircut, it's going to be bad for business. Now, that's subjective, because if you've got a team of just you and one other, then I don't think you need as much prep, and you need to have some prep and some conversation. But I think it depends on your scenario. It's very subjective. It's very personal to the size of your salon. And you have to do what's right for you. And as I said, if you can't afford to do that and you need to really pedal to the floor then do it over Zoom on the Friday before or something like that. Come up with an alternative. But whatever you do, don't go back on that first day and the first thing you and your stylist do is a haircut. It's dangerous.
Just to pick up on that, Ray, you are allowed to have your team back in the salon at any point from now, as long as you're not doing any close contact services.
I was going to say that.
Allowed to come in. You can't do each other's hair. No. But you can absolutely come in and have those meetings before.
You can do each other's hair if you're able to document that as training.
As long as one of them's in education. They've got to be formal education. So that would be like, if you've got an apprentice, somebody can be the educator for that apprentice. But what I would also add is, if you are doing that, make sure you've got signage in the window that says we are carrying out education and training as per the government guidelines, because I've been into a couple of salons in the last week, and literally even just stood there, people are banging on the window and pointing as if we're not allowed to be even in the premises. So again, the perception of being in the salon is the problem here with social media. Can I ask also, Ray, about, and Claire, of course, about a price increase? Because Dee asked a really good question with patch testing about, can we be sending a colour start to people in the post? And the answer, of course, is yes, you can. But there's a real cost to the colour start. I think around about £15 per client, plus the postage and your time. So, and then, of course, the PPE, that was confirmed yesterday. The PPE is exactly the same as it was when we were trading in December.
So can we just clarify, Gareth, is that mask and visor?
It's a type 2 mask. It's then goggles or visor. And it is then making sure that you're using the NHS Track and Trace app, or recording and retaining for 2 weeks people that are coming in, and that's dead easy because we're doing that for appointments. But what about a price rise to cover these higher? Would you increase prices, Ray? Is that, or are you
in line with colour start or just in general?
Well, let's look at both. So if you're using colour start, would you pass that cost on?
Yeah, I think so. I think, and look, I go by what my members are saying and doing. Some are uncomfortable. Obviously, I mean, a good salon will typically run on a 20% net profit. That means basically after all things you've said and done, you've got 20% left at the end of the tax year. Now, condense that down to a service. If you buy a color start, you're essentially increasing the cost of it was to produce the color service itself. You're increasing that cost quite significantly, actually. So of course you have to pass the skin test cost, I think the color start cost, on to the client if they're unable to visit the salon and have it done as a complimentary service. So it's not something that you have to have, it's something that you can have. Some of the salons that I'm liaising with, they're saying that they charge the client the initial £15 and then they take £5 off of their color bill over 3 visits, so that, you know, the salon's recognizing their loyalty to the business and they get their money back eventually. You could do it the other way around as well. You could increase the client's bill by £5 at each visit. I guess some salons would be nervous. How do I know they're going to come back? Maybe that's something that you only do for your regular clients where there's a sense of goodwill and trust. In terms of putting your prices up, we recommend that salons do that anyway, twice yearly, once in April where you might do your cutting, and then again in September where you do your color separately, so that your color clients don't get a massive lumpy increase in one visit. And I think your increases should be based on a strategic approach, what you want from the business, your current costs, your commissions. It's all linked in. I would say that again, there's no one size fits all answer here. It requires a good price list, requires in-depth analysis and a review of what you want from the business and your profitability in the last tax year or the year before.
Or not, yes.
Yeah, I mean, you can take as a guide in terms of the performance of your business. For England, the better performing months in terms of most realistic were, let me think about it, August, September and October. You know, things settled down. You've got a much more realistic look at what your business was doing. And, you know, the analysis of your profitability and your wage percentage versus what you took and your product spend versus what your net takings were is crucial in understanding, do I need to put my prices up? Ultimately, am I getting what I want from this business?
Yeah, because it's too easy just to be working really hard,
Yeah,
and be what I describe as like a busy fool, which is you are exhausted at the end of every day, but actually there's nothing to show for it.
I've had a new member join me who yesterday said exactly that. Would you define it as you're working hard or would you define it as you're working smart? And at the beginning she said, well, I'm just working, I'm doing my thing. And by the end of the conversation, once we've been through the prices, she said, shit, I'm working hard.
The thing about you and Simon, Ray, is you've always had a mantra that, you know, you charge what you're worth. Hairdressers have a fear of raising prices. They always have. It's a big nervous thing. But I think when you and Simon, one of the founding sort of principles, having worked with you of the business, was don't be fearful. You know, you are worth it. You're offering an incredible quality service and a highly skilled service. Have the faith to do it and be confident. And don't try and sneak it in, I think is another thing that you've always said. You know, if you're going to raise those prices and be bold about it and open and honest, because you value what you do and the client will value what they do. I mean, it's just something that you should have confidence. And a lot of people don't have confidence, do they?
No, and if you're looking for confidence, the truth is, I think you said about being honest with yourself about the service, about things and what you want. I think be honest about, you know, the service that you're providing, the area that you're based in, the demographic of clientele you're trying to reach. And a good thing, if you want reassurance as to the stability of your business, and if a price increase would affect it, check out your retention figure on your salon software. If you're hovering at 50%, for example, I would advise against a heavy price uplift. But if you're at 80, 85% or above even, you know, you're in a great place to put your prices up. You have an assurance that your clients love to visit, they come back, and you're in a great position, you know, factually.
Good idea. Yeah, no, I think that's going to be important. Is there anything else, I mean, you want to add, Ray, about sort of the return that we're looking at? Interesting you say there that you've noticed speaking to members. Can you just clarify a little bit about that after this rush, there's going to be a dip?
Yeah. There was after the last lockdown, I
And when
think.
do you think that dip will occur?
I think it will be, it depends how the salon's handling appointments. If you're going, I think some have said, you know, they're doing express appointments where they only do, you know, half heads. Maybe they're just not doing the full package to begin with because they want to get everybody in. They'll burn through their clientele list. And I think that happened last time as quickly as 4 weeks. I think more people have approached this with, we're going at our normal pace. That's the feeling I get. Of which I would say that it largely depends on how long your team has been with you, their utilization before lockdown, their current existing clientele. It's a very challenging thing to ask, but I'd say probably anywhere between maybe for a really quiet underperforming stylist, they're going to burn through their clientele in about 2 or 3 weeks because they're just going to be at 100% utilization. You know, for example, full-time, 40 hours accommodating client rather than maybe 30 hours, 75% of what they can do before this amount of demand. So ultimately, I think it's 3 to 6 weeks.
Right.
And you know,
just working that out in my head, I think you could literally hear my brain.
I could hear the cogs. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth noting that, of course, the furlough scheme does continue, and as employers, although we will have to start paying an increasing percentage of the rate, we could re-furlough people when that quiet time comes. What I would add, though, that comes with a fairly big penalty in terms of the messaging it gives to your employee, and I think we need to be doing all we can in terms of, as Ray says, marketing and also the management of our clients so that we don't have to resort to that.
I was just going to return to that, Ray. I mean, I know we have talked about the huge importance of the rebooking, marketing. I mean, what else can we do, or how can we approach it a bit left of field to cope with this downturn that we know is happening? I mean, you know, you've given us some good points, but what else? Because it is a worry for salon owners, because you've seen it before, as you say, and we've got examples now of countries that have opened earlier. What else would you say, Ray, to kind of combat that downturn or manage it?
I think, like Gareth suggests, obviously part-time furlough is an option, reducing hours, but it does send out a message. You know, I think ultimately that could work if it's not in control, it's not in your control. You've seen stylists that typically perform find themselves in a place where they're not performing. I think whereby it's someone that hasn't historically performed for your business and hasn't done for the last 2 years, and now they're still in a worse off position. And people that were quiet are going to come off worse off after all of this. People that were not productive members of our team. That's when we change the part-time furlough message. I think productive stylists who you just cannot change it for them, part-time furlough them. It's going to be the best thing for you because of your wage percentage. It's going to be the best thing for them because they're not sat around twiddling their thumb wondering what's next. In terms of the people that aren't productive, that have given you resistance for coming back to work, I mean, I think it's time, if it's not working for me, it's probably not working for you, right? And whether that's redundancy, formal performance reviews, I think we really need to consider, you know, people that have been hanging on by a thread in our salons, unproductive members of the team, not generating a profit for themselves, hitting targets, break evens, that kind of thing. You know, is there another issue at play here that that COVID has, you know, produced for us? It's shown us this is a time for action. But as I said, for someone that's typically performing, part-time furlough is an option, I think.
What about things like marketing strategies? I know you've got quite strong views on offers and things like that, contacting lapsed clients when we have that downturn. What other ways can we look at driving traffic, maybe new business into the salon? I mean, you know, what would you say about that? Is there anything that we can look at?
I think that you know as well as I do, I think we could probably sit here for about another hour giving you know, marketing strategies. I think ultimately it comes down to a proactive strategy. If you're reactive, if you get to the end of the 6-week period and you've reached the, you know, a real lull in trade, then essentially you're in an issue, you've got a problem. And if you start putting out hook offers for, you know, £10 off your cut and blow dries and money off your colors, it's going to scream desperation and it's going to devalue your product and your brand.
That's what I wanted just you to clarify. I knew you kind of felt that. So I want people to understand that it's a tempting thing to do, but in your opinion, to be avoided.
Yeah, I think you need to use, I think the information, I mean, use it. In 6 weeks' time, there's a possibility that your salon's going to get quiet. That will be very obvious to you if the rebookings are lower. You know, if rebookings are at 40 to 50% of overall clientele, you know, you are going to be quiet in 6 weeks' time. We're striving for really fantastic rebookings, and those clients that come in the first week. So I guess one of the most sort of typical or well-established marketing practices is recommend a friend. £10, a £10 voucher towards, you know, for you and your friend when you recommend them, and put an expiry date of maybe 6 weeks on that. So there's a call to action. It's not just, you know,
Loosely hanging about. Yeah,
yeah,
that's good. And you, I mean, because these ones have been around for years, and it's interesting to forget these in the wake of social media and Instagram, which, as you said, going to be difficult. Those gorgeous glitzy pictures, because we've talked about the 3-stage journey to get the hair looking like that. So you will find that there are some Instagrammable stuff that you can do and keep that going. But the old familiar recommend a friend has still got a place, in your opinion?
I think so. As long as it's not gathering dust on the reception side, it has to be given out. And something in my salon, my receptionists will actually prep all of that for the clients. So anything they needed for that visit is in like a little folder thing for that client that day. You know, it's got their recommend a friend card, it's got everything. So the stylist, if the receptionist isn't at the desk, just literally goes, here you go. But recommendations happen in the chair. You know, they talk about, oh, my wife, my friend, this, that. Love to see them. I'm currently looking for clientele. I'm building my column. I'd really appreciate it. You know, being upfront and honest, you know.
Yeah, that's simple but effective. And I think people like that. They probably think, oh, I'd like to help them. And let's look at this from another perspective. You know, even before the COVID, there was a big move to support small businesses in the country. You know, there was a big sort of push to value and to look after the high street, protect it. And this is our chance to kind of, people will want to see businesses survive. They'll understand that you've gone through an incredibly tough time. So they'll probably respond to things like you're saying. Like, if you're honest and say, it's been tough, I'm looking for new clients, you know, if you know of anybody who needs it, I've got availability. I don't think people will see that so much as hard selling. They'll just respond to the fact that times have been tough and we need to support each other.
Yeah, I think so. And it's just how you word it. You know, I'd love to meet your friends, Claire. I'd absolutely be delighted to accommodate your friend who's
keep it light.
Yeah, like not too heavy. And then you follow up at the desk and say, look, if you're interested as well, here's, you know, if you use this, give it to them. They get £10 off, and you do too. Thanks for your loyalty.
Yeah. I think
it's a win for everybody, that, isn't it?
Give you a big hug as well, Claire. Sadly, I don't look like Sean Connery that we spoke about.
So they might veer off. I don't know. But no, I think what you say is cool. I mean, it's your tone and pitch. That's what you got to tell the staff. No one wants a heavy sell. No one wants to be sort of like rammed down your throat. But again, it's giving your staff the confidence. Hairdressers, when I've worked with them for years, say, oh, I'm not a natural salesperson. They don't like it when you run through selling retail with them. They get very, but I do it because I'm creative. But, you know, you have to. But I think if you incorporate it in the conversation with your client, you keep it light, you keep it informative, you stay within the parameter that you feel comfortable with, not asking them to be a car salesman, then, you know, it's a natural part of the conversation. And I know that's something you focus on. I think you've probably got some good videos on selling retail and that sort of thing. And it's about that, isn't it? It's avoiding that kind of really going for the hard sell.
Yeah, it's about recommendation, and something you said, like recognizing your value and the role that you play. You know, I go into Superdrug now, and I'm alarmed by the amount of hair care, and you sort of see people sort of idling around the products, and they haven't got a clue what to buy. It's just whatever bottle they love the most. You know, it's, oh, that one looks good. And I think our job is to ultimately recommend the clients what's the best thing for their hair. You know, if they're having difficulties styling with their hair, if their color is fading, if they didn't like their color on the last visit, these are all things that we need to visit with, you know, being open and positive, and you know, making sure that we can make a recommendation and the client feels like we can get it wrong and they can tell us about it. So there's a build up of trust. So they buy things for you more, even though you made a poor recommendation that time, means you'll get it right the next. You know, I think it's about just being confident and saying what they need to do in that chair. You know, this is what you need. You need to come back in 6 weeks. You need to have a 3-step hair plan, and you need this bottle of shampoo to preserve that beautiful color that you've just had, Claire.
No, that's true. And I think the other thing that, I know it's simple, but another great thing to suggest to them is that when you're buying a very professional product, on the whole, less is more. You know, it does seem like a lot of money compared to what they buy idling in Superdrug. But professional products, you get through far less. The effects are, you know, better. I know it goes back to a prescriptive approach. This is, you've made a good point. They don't know. They've got so much choice. I mean, it was a time when people would write down on a card, you know, a prescription for your specific hair type and need. So they feel it's almost like a medical service. You know, they feel really invested. And also, yes, it does cost a lot of money. Let's make no bones for some people, but stress the fact that that bottle can last you a hell of a long time.
Yeah, I think how you present the product is what your brand is. You know, if you're really slick and professional and you've got that, you know, dare I say it, like clinical feel to your salon, like you strive for white tiles, white walls, they're really going to feel that. So prescriptions are going to work. But if you're rock and roll, super cool, you know, you're a bit more chilled out, that's
not going to work.
Like, so we need to make sure
that's
that,
a good point.
It's about how you want your business and your staff or your stylist to communicate with the clientele, and then telling them how this is how we need to communicate. This is what I need you to do in order for you to give the clients what they need. You know, but it's about your brand.
Though, is that everything you do down to product? You've made a really good point. Even the product is in harmony with the ethos and the kind of branding of the salon. So while a prescriptive approach for a sort of clinique looking salon is great, as you say, your product range needs to be in keeping with the kind of image and feel you're going for. It's that coherency, isn't it, of the business, everything on brand.
But that will be the same with the marketing messages you're putting out. So if you're hip, cool, funky, your marketing needs to mirror that, because your business image needs to just be across everything you do. And I think lots of people make a mistake. They use a MailChimp template that for everything, and they think it is one size fits all, and it really isn't. It does need to be bespoke.
It's tailored to fit your overall branding. I think that's and that's going to be more and more important, because as it is already, I know some sadly salons have bitten the dust, but it's a flooded marketplace, and you have to have a USP, and your USP comes across stronger, as you know, it's a classic PR thing, if there's a uniformity across your website, your windows, the products you choose, even the way the stylists present themselves. You know, it has to echo what you're selling as your USP. And then you've got a strength, you know, you're creating a niche, as opposed to just being one of a sea of pretty similar looking salons. Would you agree with that, Ray?
Yeah. You've got to shout your strengths. You need to attract the audience that you want, as I said earlier, based on your pricing. Who do you want coming into the salon? What environment do you offer? And you know, that will decide everything. You know, what is your business? Who is your business? Why are you there?
You talked about that actually when we had a chat before, and I think the why, I think that really resonated. We got a lot of feedback from that more than anything else. And lockdown has been a time, I know, for a lot of people who have taken on board what you said, and others in the industry, of going back to basics and asking yourself those fundamental questions. What is it you're doing? Why are you different? And what do you want to be? And I mean, that's been a positive. It's given you time to really examine your business and where you go. So hopefully, looking ahead, you know, I hope that it's a fantastic return for people. And, you know, we're all here for them. I know you're there for your members, and certainly at Good Salon Guide, we will be expecting to have to offer a lot of support over the next coming weeks. But, you know, it's fantastic that we can, because it's vital that we have a good return this time.
So just before we close off, and if anybody's got any other questions they want to pop up on the chat, please do. One thing that's just popped into my mind, of course, is don't forget that you need to write to your employees to unfurlough them or defurlough them, whichever it would be the appropriate grammar. I'm sure Jodie will correct me later. But you do have to change their status back to employed. And then, of course, if you need to either part-time furlough them in the future or completely furlough them in the future, you need to write to them again. And if you need template letters, they're on the COVID-19 section, back to business section on our website. So please do make sure you use all of those.
Yeah, David says, can you do that via email, Gareth?
100% you can do that via email. The Royal Mail at the moment, in my experience, utterly useless. So yeah, email is free and it's instant. And also you could argue that it doesn't have any infection risk on the paper if you really want to be particular about that.
Okay.
Just to add to that, I think best practice is to also attach a COVID-19 risk assessment with the return to work letter, and track the email. So if you've got an email tracker, turn it on and read receipt, and if not, ask them to respond. And you may also need to consider a consultation before you ask them to come back. Any concerns you have, anything you're worried about, anything that the salon can do to make things better this time round? You know, was there anything that alarmed you? That's best practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is good actually, Ray. It's again coming back to where we started this whole conversation about being a good, morally right employer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's we hope that's what every person in the industry aspires to be. And it's the fundamental basic of having a successful business, as we've established.
The need for the risk assessment, I would advise that is a given. It's not just something that you might do on the basis as well. The benefit being that we had a lot of, I think there's still some more resignations and movement to come in the industry. And also there was a lot of resistance. Some stylists who were typically underperformers in the businesses or were disengaged employees, they weren't, your good eggs, so to speak. They took the opportunity as soon as the employer said, come back to work. They said, no, I don't want to. I don't believe this is a safe environment for me. So providing that you've attached the COVID-19 risk assessment and you've done that, it is your body of evidence that you're taking reasonable precautions to protect them and the clients that come into the business as part of your duty as the employer. So it's your backup, basically.
Yeah.
I agree. And I would I think on that, I would make sure that document has been reviewed for reopening, and it states on the top, reviewed on date. Because that shows that, maybe nothing has changed between December and now in terms of your risk assessment and what you need to do. And that may well be the case, but just pop on the top, reviewed on the 2nd of April or something. Oh, sorry, that's a bank holiday. You're definitely not working on.
Bank holiday. Gareth, David says, is there a risk assessment form on the GSG site?
Absolutely. In that back to business section, there is a template risk assessment for COVID-19, which you can complete for all the various sections. David, if you struggle to find it, or anybody else for that matter, just pop me an email. My email address, if you don't have it, is gareth@goodsalonguide.com. And we will then obviously make sure you get all the documentation that you need.
And I'd just like to say, following on from what we talked about, we are putting a slight pause on our mental health training courses at the moment, because we're fully aware that, we talked about this first 4-week period, but we are going to be starting courses for our members. There has been a hell of a lot of interest. We think maybe sort of May time, as we've discussed today, there'll be a slight quietening down. Might be just the right time to sort of get some training in that area, to be better equipped to manage your own mental health and your staff. So they will be returning if anybody's interested in that, and we will obviously promote them and give you plenty of notice of when they're coming up.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that, the mental health of our workers and ourselves really is paramount to becoming and being a successful business again. The two things go hand in hand, and there's one of the only good things I think that's going to come out of COVID is a growing realization of the importance of mental health.
Totally, and government investment in mental health, which is happening.
At last, yeah. So
there's options, and at some point in the future, we fully expect it to be mandatory to have a mental health first aider within your workplace. So that's good news, I think. Anyway,
thank you, Raymond, as ever, very much. But very insightful. And obviously, if anybody wants to get in touch with you guys, how would they do so?
Send off a flare, I think that would probably be. No, I'm joking. Unfortunately, well, no, I say unfortunately, this with how hard and challenging this has been for our industry. We've had an unbelievable level of engagement, new engagement for My Salon Manager, and rather than pointing you to videos and just giving you generic advice, Simon and I actually dedicated to working quite closely with all of our members. So we've actually had to hit pause on accepting new members. We've reached the ceiling, as it were, and we're worried that if we take anyone else on, that we will be in danger of damaging the service and the quality of the advice we offer. So unfortunately, we're not accepting members now, but if you are interested in becoming a member in the future, head over to My Salon Manager on Instagram and you'll find a link to a Google form. Quickly fill it in, and once we're back open in terms of accepting new members, we'd love to have you and work on your business. And My Salon Manager works on the strategy side of things. We're really focused on the numbers, the performance of your business, and helping you through managing your team correctly to stimulate great performance. I would say that we're the strategy and finance guys. That's our
I'd like to say to you guys as well, congratulations on your finalist thing the other night. You were
of course, yeah, we had a very good
innovation.
PR.
Yeah. You had a fantastic, I mean, you had a fantastic PR for that, but it was incredible to get to that's one of the highest accolades, recognition of your business being quite innovative. When you started, you were really leading the way. So well done on that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's interesting, Ray, you talk about number of new inquiries, because during March, Good Salon Guys had more new inquiries for people who want to become members than I can remember in a month. Well, for years and years. It's clear that there's a real appetite for salon owners to invest some time and effort in running their business, and it's good. Fantastic. I'm really pleased that people are doing so, with whoever they work with.
Yeah.
I think it shows that, I'm sorry, I'm keeping everyone longer. I think I joined hairdressing 18 years ago, and I worked for a chap. The salon was absolutely busy. It had no posters, no marketing, no email, no nothing. Clients just kicked the doors down and wanted their hair done. In 2021, it's a very sophisticated business, and a lot of the members who join us are very upfront and say to me, I've just been winging it. They've been running their business like how salons were 18 years ago. And now you've really got to understand the detail of your finance, your marketing, your brand, and what it is you want. And I think organizations such as My Salon Manager, Good Salon Guide, and many other successful industry advisors in the industry, we're here for a reason, and we're doing well because people want their businesses to be better, which is so fantastic.
I think also, Ray, that and Gareth, a lot of salon owners have long felt, and I've worked with salon people for more than 20 years, and they've long felt that, hairdressers will often say, I'm very creative, I'm very good with my hands, but they've lacked maybe business acumen, and they've lacked kind of the knowledge, which, as you say, you perhaps didn't need years ago. And instead of stressing about that, they've now got bodies and organizations they can go to that not only, I think this is a critical point, support them in developing that business acumen, but prove to them, and I think this is really important because hairdressers do sometimes put themselves down, that actually they can be really good business owners. It's just that they haven't been pointed in the right direction and taught to use skills that they do actually have. And I think that's the real value. You've got a support mechanism in people like you, Ray, and Gareth, but then you begin to realize, actually, I'm flying, I can do this, I'm good at it. And that's a real good thing, because people can be multi-talented. Just because you're a great hairdresser doesn't mean that you can't be a great business owner too. Just haven't had the support and the push in the right direction.
Yeah, I would say that if you are a great hairdresser and the salon relies on you to be on that shop floor, and that needs to change, or you want that to change, then you need to change your time on the shop floor so you can spend time working on the business, not just if you want to be a great salon owner now, I think you have to really look at your diary and factor in time to do things like everything we spoke about, you know, plan ahead for your team, look at the finances, look at your pricing, because there's just not enough hours in the day. And if you try and do both, 40 hours a week on the shop floor and then 20 hours a week on your finances,
Burnout.
you will burn out, and everything, your haircuts will fail, no, not fail, but they won't be as good as they can be, and your team will feel disengaged. So spend the time working on it rather than in it. It's a hard decision to make, but one.
No, but it's valuable for the business.
Definitely.
That's a good note to end on. Work on it and in it. Like that, Ray. That's Ray's message of the day.
Thank you both very much, and good luck with reopening, Ray.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thanks a lot.
Definitely. Thanks, Ray. Thanks.